Well. Welcome to today's lesson, grade 6 mathematics under the substrand square roots of whole numbers. Square roots of whole numbers. Now, let us look at square roots of whole numbers, grade 6. Now, square root, from the knowledge of squares, square, when you are discussing squares of numbers, you realize that you get a square of a number by multiplying that number by itself. For example, the square of 3, and it is normally noted by the small 2 on top of that number. So this one means square of 3. That means 3 by 3, multiplying a number by itself. So 3 by 3 is 9. Another number may be 4 squared. That means 4 times itself. 4 times 4. That gives you 16. So these are called squares of numbers. But now the square root of numbers is now the opposite of squares. That means instead of being given a number to multiply to multiply it by itself, you are given the number that already been the result, in short. So for example, in this case, if we pick 16, and you are asked to get the square root of 16, so remember, square root is noted by this sign. Some learners confuse this sign to be division. It is not division. It has a hook. So division does not have this hook here. So this sign means square root. So this square root means there is a number here that was multiplied by itself to give you 16. So that is what they want. So anytime you see a sign like this simply means that find this number that was multiplied by itself to give you 16. And therefore, for us to get that number, there is always a method that is used. And that is the method I'm going to show you. So the number is 16. And we know very well we started by squaring 4. So automatically we know that that number is 4. But how do we get that 4? So we want the square root of 16. So we will take the 16, the number, and we use what is called prime factorization. We want to get this number here. That what is that number that you multiply by itself to give you 16? So when we use the word prime factorization or the factor tree, we look for a number that can divide this 16. We look for a number that can divide this 16. And it is always advisable to start with the smallest number that can divide this 16 apart from 1. Because if you divide it by 1, you will still get 16 there. So instead of starting with 1, let us start with 2. So before you start with that 2, make sure that that 2 can divide that 16 without a remainder. And of course, we did divisibility test of 2 in grade 5. So we know that a number is divisible by 2 if the last digit is 6. Like in this case, the last digit is 6, or 8, or 0, or 4, or 2. So we can easily know, or we can easily tell this number is divisible by 2. So we will start with that 2. So you write that 2 on the left-hand side. After writing this 2 on the left-hand side, if you divide 16 by 2, you will get 8. That 8, you write it on the right-hand side. So you will have something like this. That's why it's called factor tree. It looks like a tree moving downwards. So that is the first step. The second step, there is this 8 here. we do the same. So if these 2 can still divide 8, we continue with that 2. If it cannot, we drop it and we move to the next number. And because 2 can still divide 8, we write it on the left side. Then if we divide that 8 by that 2, we get this answer here, this 4. So up to here, if these 2 can still continue dividing this number, we continue with the same 2. And of course, 2 can divide 4. So we'll write that 2 on the left and divide 4 by 2. The answer we get, we write here. So reaching there, you realize that there is no number that can divide 2 apart from 1 and 2 itself. So if you reach that point where there is no number that can divide that number, that means you have reached the final stage. These are what we call prime numbers. Those numbers that they only have 2 divisors. So once you reach this point, you pick these numbers the way they are from here, from there, all these numbers. So I think you can see them. They are 4 numbers and they are 2s. So you will have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. So they are 4 2s. So if you multiply all these numbers, you will get 16. But that is not our interest. We want the number that was squared or that was multiplied by itself to get 16. So once you reach here, we pair these numbers, pair them into 2, 2, 2. So we will have the first 2, you pair them. The second one also, you pair. So we have 2 pairs here. From there, pick one number per pair. For example, here, the first pair, we pick 2 because there are 2. Times the second pair, we also pick 1, 1, 2. Then we multiply these 2 numbers. So if you have 2 times 2, you will get 4. So that 4 becomes the square root of 16. So this method, some learners tend to ignore it because it involves division. But this is the method, the recommended method of getting the square root of numbers. So let me pick another number, or let us use also another example. So this was an even number. So let me pick an odd number. We check if we will get the same. So that is the first point. That is the first point of getting the square root of numbers using this division method. A very simple and very interesting method. So let me pick another number here. Let me have a number like 256. 256, a very big number, 256, though still an even number. So we are going to use the same method. 256, we will write it here. Then we look for a number that can, the smallest number that can divide this. I've said that let us not start with 1 because you will still get the same number. So let us say 2. Can 2 divide this number? Having the knowledge of divisibility test of 2, a number is divisible by 2 if the last digit, the digit in the place value of 1s, is an even number or a 0. And this is 6. So that means the whole of this number is divisible by 2. So let us start with 2. If you divide this by 2, 256 divided by 2, you will have 1, bring 1 down, 0, 5, 2 goes into 5 2 times, which is 4, remainder 1, bring that, 2 goes into 16, 8. So you'll have 128. First step. Second step, the same. If 2 can still divide that number, we continue with the same 2. And because it can divide that, we will continue with that. So we will have our new number, 228 divided by 2. So 2 goes into 12, 6. 6 times 2 is 12. Remember 0, bring down 8. 2 goes into 8, 4. So we will have here 64. If 2 can still divide this, we will continue with the 2. 2 divide 64 32 times. If 2 can still divide that number, we will continue with the same 2, which is 16 times. If 2 can still divide that number, we will continue with the same 2, which is 8 times. If 2 can still divide 8, we will continue with the 2, which is 4 times. And if 2 can still divide 4, we will continue with the same 2, which is 2. So reaching there, the last number here is 2, which is a prime number. So there is no number that can divide that 2 apart from 2 and 1. So we will have how many 2's here? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So we will have 8 2's. What we did in the first, we do it here. And we will have 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2 times 2. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. These are these numbers here. Easy. All the way up to those numbers. So after that, we pair them into 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2, 2. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4. We have 4 pairs. Pick one number per pair. So the first pair we will pick 2 times. The second number we will pick 2 times. The third number we will pick 2 times. The fourth pair we will also pick 2. So once we have those numbers like that, after picking them from each pair, then now we multiply. 2 times 2 is 4. 4 times 2 is 8. 8 times 2 is 16. So that means the square root of this number is 16. And you can always confirm your answer, because square root, you know that this 16, if you multiply it by itself, you are supposed to get this number. So we can confirm that 16 by 16. 6 times 6 is 36. So we carry 3. 6 times 1 is 6 plus 3, 9. 1 times 6 is 6, and 1 times 1 is 1. Then we add 6, 15, and 2. Then we are correct. So this number is 16. That is the square root of 256. Let me get an odd number. Somebody can say, why are you just using 2, 2, 2, 2? Let me go get an odd number that cannot be divided by 2, so that we see that in case you get an odd number that is not divisible by 2, what do you do? So let me pick another example here. Let me pick another example here. Let me pick a number like 625. 625. Now 625 is now not divisible by 2. So we want the square root of 625. Now, this number is not divisible by 2 because the last digit is an odd number. It is also not divisible by 3 because a number is divisible by 3 if the sum of the digits, if you add 6 plus 2 plus 5, that answer should be divisible by 3. If it is not divisible by 3, then the whole of that number is not divisible by 3. That is divisibility test of 3. This number is also not divisible by 4 because when you are checking a number is divisible by 4 if the last 2 digits is divisible by 4, which in this case is not divisible by 4. And therefore, 5, this number is divisible by 5. Divisibility test of 5 says that a number is divisible by 5 if the digit in the place value of ones is divisible by 5 or is 5 or it is 0. So this number is divisible by 5. So we will start with that 5 on the right hand side. Then you divide that 625 by 5. So 5 goes into 6, 1. which is 5, remainder 1, bring down 2. 5 goes into 12 2 times, which is 10, remainder 2. You bring down 5. 5 goes into 25 5 times, which is 25. So we have 125. The same, we check if this 5 can still divide this number, we continue with it. Of course, it can divide. So we have 125 divided by 5. 5 goes into 12 2 times, which is 10. Remainder 2, bring down 5. 5 goes into 5 times. So you have 25. If 5 can still divide that number, we continue. Of course, it can. 5 goes into 25 5 times, or 25 divided by 5 times. Once you reach here, there is no number that can divide 5 apart from 5 and 1. So that means we have reached the final stage. So we pick these numbers, these are our prime numbers, these ones, the 4 of them. In most cases, in fact, not even in most cases, these numbers will always be in pairs. They will be numbers that can be paired, all of them. So either you will get 4 numbers or 6 or 8. But the moment you get 5 numbers here, that means there's somewhere you have messed. So we have 5 times 2 times 5 times 5. So there are 4 5s, 1, 2, 3, 4. Then we pair them. We pair them, then you pick one per pair. 5 times 5 is 25. So the square root of 625 is 25. Now, that is the method that is recommended in getting the square root of all numbers. Otherwise, sometimes people can forget. Sometimes people can forget. And therefore, you are maybe a candidate, you are in the exam room, you totally forget the method and everything, or you try to use it and it's not coming. What do you do? So in such a case, I will give you an alternative that you can use in case you forget this method and you are in the exam room and you really need to pass. So the alternative is this. Let's say, for example, you want to get the square root of 169. Let us say you want to get the square root of 169 and you don't know that method, or you have tried that method and it's not coming. You have tried and it's not making any sense. So the method I want to show you here is meant for those people who might forget, but they want really to pass that exam. So you will try this method. Now, we know that for you to get the square root of a number, you need a number here to multiply it by itself so that you can get that number. So there's this number 169. You want this, what is this number that was multiplied by itself to get 169? Now, let us assume in multiplication, there is always a rule in multiplication, which so many people doesn't know. In multiplication, if you have a number like 13 times maybe 3, or let's say 13 times 23, let me have a 2-digit number and a 2-digit number. If you have 13 times 23 and you put it like this, you want to work it out like this, there's always this rule that some people don't tell learners, but it is always a rule that is hidden somewhere, that in multiplication, the first number you multiply, like in this case, it is 3 times 3. This first number you multiply, once you write it here, this number 9, this digit that is written here in the place value of ones, will always remain 9. It will always remain that number. No matter how many digits are here, even if you have million, for example, if I can extend this number, I write something like this. Whether I have 2,413 times 525, this first digit I will write here will always, by the end of the day, the answer, the digit in the place value of ones will always be this one. It will not change. because these others comes. For example, if you finish with the 3 in the first line, you will move to 2. This 2, the first number, you will write under 2 here. So there is nothing going to be written under this 9. If you move to 5, the first number you will write under here. So there is nothing going to be written here. So that means the first number you write in multiplication will always remain that number. So you can use that trick to get this thing here. So you know that this number is 169, and you want to find out what was this number that was multiplied by itself to give me 169. The first thing to do is look for a number that if you multiply it by itself, the first thing you are going to write, the first number you're going to write in the place value of ones is 9. And those numbers are only 2. I think they are only 2. 7 and 3. They are only 2. 7 and 3. So these two numbers, if you multiply 7 times 7, you will always get 49. So you will write 9 first here. Or 3 times 3, you will always get 9. Now, these two numbers, 7 and 3, those are the numbers that you have to play with for you to get this number right. So once you have them, you will start maybe with that 3 and say, you know that 3 times 3 cannot give you 169. So you will move and say, what about if I put it 13? Because you don't want to leave, that 3 must be in the place value of ones. So that if you multiply it 3 by 3, you write 9. This 7 must also be in the place value of ones. So that even if you're supposed to add something, you can only add 1 on the left so that it becomes 17. So let's try with 13. So 13 times 13. 3 times 3 is 9. 3 times 1 is 3. 1 times 3 is 3. 1 times 1 is 1. So if you add these two numbers, you will realize that you will have this number. You will have 169 automatically inaingia. So that method needs the knowledge of multiplication, that what number do I multiply by itself to give me this particular number that I've been given here. Let me get another number. I've said this one is an escape through for those people. If you are in an exam room and you have forgotten the method of getting the square root of numbers. Let me get a number like 100 and 1156. So you want to get this number. That what is this number that was multiplied by itself to give me 1156? The first thing I'm going to do is, what is the last number, or which number is in the place value of ones? It is 6. So after knowing that number, ask yourself, what is this number that if I multiply it by itself, the first number I'm going to write is 6. That number, there are also 2. One is 4. If you write 4, if you multiply 4 times 4, you will get 16. So there is 6 there. Another one is 6 itself. If you multiply 6 times 6, you will get 36. So already you have those two numbers, 4 and 6. So these two numbers, 4 and 6, you are going to play with these two numbers to give you this number correct. So if you start with 14, let me say 14 times 14, that is 16, carry 1, 4, 5. This one gives you 196. Still very far from this number. Remember, this number is 1000. So don't waste your time moving to 16 again. Move to around 24 or 26, because we have tried with 14 and it is giving us 100. So automatically, even if we try with the 16, it is not going to give us much more than this. It's going to be just some hundreds. But this thing is 1000. So let me go with 24 and 24. So 4 times 4 is 16. That is 8, 9. That is 8. And that is 4. So this one gives you 576. That is 24 by 24. So that means it is not, we are moving. We have reached already in 500. So let us try with 26 also. 26 by 26. So that is 36, carry 3. 12 plus 3 is 15. Then that is also 12, 5. So you have 6, 7, 6. We are in 676. We are moving. So that means this number, after knowing this method, you will not waste time with a number step by step. You automatically move to the next 10. So we are at 26 and already we are in 600. So if you move to 34, I've said only play with those two numbers, 6 and 3, 6 and 4. So if you move to 34, that is 16, 12, 13, that is 12, 9. So this one gives us 6, 5, 1, 1. So this one gives us that number exactly, 1156. So this number is 34. So the square root of 1156 is 34. Now that method is better than scratching your head in the exam room or looking at the roof as if the answer will drop. Is better. And if you know multiplication, you can easily take a very short time. Remember, in mathematics, every minute is calculated. Every minute is accounted for. So there is no time to think, there is no time to waste looking at whatever. So once you find that you have forgotten this method, try an alternative method, which is also very simple, by the way. That can help somebody to get the answers right. Otherwise, today, that is what I had today. And I will always ask you people continue subscribing to this channel, continue sharing this information so that we can get as many people as possible. Remember, the more we are, the more we help those who are in need. Otherwise, thank you for watching. Like the video, share, and if you have any comment, if you have any concern, you are always free to comment under the comment section. Thank you for watching.